In a crowded cafe where laughter masks unspoken sorrows, a little girl with tear-stained cheeks dares to approach a giant named Arnold Schwarzenegger. As she asks a question that pierces through layers of bravado, can a titan of strength find solace in the fragile courage of a child, or will shadows of doubt prevail? The scent of freshly brewed coffee intertwines with the sounds of laughter and chit-chat in the bustling cafe, creating a vibrant yet oddly heavy atmosphere. Sunlight streamed through large windows, casting warm golden light over patrons immersed in their conversations. I, Arnold Schwarzenegger, sat semi-obscured in a corner, savoring a moment of solitude under the flickering glow of an overhead bulb. The cafe, with its eclectic decor and clinking cups, was a stark contrast to my towering persona, the celebrated Hollywood icon, and my internal struggles, muddled in the shadows of vulnerability. As I watched the scene unfold, my gaze fell upon a small girl nestled at a nearby table. She was flipping through a colorful sketchbook, her tiny brow furrowed in concentration, yet her eyes glistened with unshed tears. Lily, young and innocent, embodied a blend of grief and curiosity, her recent loss painted all over her delicate features. Underneath her shyness lay a courageous heart, yearning for answers about God and wrestling with her emotions following her father's passing. Just as I began to ponder my own life's questions, Lily's voice broke through the ambient chatter, soft yet piercing. "Do you think God exists?" Her question hung suspended in the air, jolting me from my solitude, as it echoed with the gravity of her innocent heart's inquiry. The cafe buzzed with its usual rhythm, murmurs of conversation mixing with the clatter of ceramic cups. The rich aroma of espresso hung heavily in the air, wrapping its warmth around me like an old sweater. I sat at my usual table, lost in thought while the sunlight streamed through the windows, casting playful shadows on the polished floor. It was a vibrant afternoon, one that should fill a person with joy, yet I felt the weight of the world pressing on my shoulders. Across the way, I caught sight of a small figure. Lily. She sat alone, her tiny hands moving idly over a sketchbook, deep in concentration. A cloud of confusion lingered around her. I saw her eyes glistening with unshed tears, the innocence of childhood marred by something profound. Heartache. It pulled at me. I remembered that ache all too well. After moments of quiet contemplation, her small frame rose with determination. She approached me, and for a split second, the cafe faded away. "Do you think God exists?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, yet it resonated loudly in the busy cafe. I hesitated. The gravity of her question hung thick in the air, stirring my own buried doubts. Here was a child unearthing something monumental, and I, a supposed giant, was left grappling with her inquiry. My heart raced, unsure of where this conversation, this connection, might lead. The cafe buzzed around us, but all I could focus on was the small girl standing in front of me. Lily's wide, tear-filled eyes seemed to mirror the weight I carried, one that was oddly familiar, yet unfamiliar at the same time. "Do you think God exists?" she had asked, her voice trembling ever so slightly. It felt like a punch to the gut, stirring a whirlwind of memories I'd rather keep buried. I had faced countless opponents, but this was different. This was about me, a Goliath brought to my knees by a child's innocent query. As I tried to deflect with humor, telling her how I once thought my muscles could bench press faith, Lily's expression turned serious. "But what if your muscles can't help you?" she pressed. At that moment, the cafe's lively chaos faded into the background, and her words echoed in the silence between us. The truth was, I had been grappling with my own sense of inadequacy since my father passed. Lily's question dug deeper, peeling layers I thought only God could reach. I tried to navigate this emotional terrain, attempting to share my journey with gentle anecdotes about growing up in a small village, hoping she'd find solace in my story. But as I spoke, I saw her sadness linger on her small face like a shadow, and I realized my words were falling short. "You have to be strong," she exclaimed, her little fist tightening. "How can someone strong like you not know?" Her words hung heavy, piercing my facade. "What did strength mean when you felt lost inside?" I was terrified. Was I supposed to have the answers, when in truth, I was just a man looking for his own? Even now, I found myself standing on the precipice, staring down into the abyss of grief, uncertainty, and faith. As I sat across from this small, fragile figure, I could feel the tension thickening in the air between us. Lily's eyes were wide, shimmering pools of innocence and consternation as she pressed on with her questions. "But if God loves us, why do people die?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Yet it echoed deeply within me. I shifted uncomfortably, grappling with her innocent inquiry. My initial flirtation with humor had fizzled out. Here I was, the so-called heavyweight champion of the movie world, yet facing an emotional duel with the most formidable opponent imaginable, a child confronting the harsh realities of life. I felt trapped in a Goliath versus David moment, wrestling with my own internal monsters while trying to provide solace to this grieving child. I I hesitated, the words tangled in my throat like unwelcome vines. I think, I think God works in mysterious ways, I stammered, but deep within, I sensed the inadequacy of my response. Lily wasn't satisfied. "But if God is mysterious, then how can we know anything?" Her brow creased with genuine confusion, and suddenly it wasn't just a question about faith, it was a question about my existence, my struggles, and the shadows I had long masked beneath bravado. "Sometimes even I feel lost," I admitted, my voice low. A crack in my facade appeared, revealing the truth behind my strength. There was a time when I questioned everything, who I was, what I believed. Her eyes widened further as if she caught a glimpse of the real Arnold, one who also fought battles unseen. "But you're strong," she piped, her faith woven so tightly between her words that I almost choked on it. "How can you feel lost?" In that moment, I couldn't escape the wave of emotion cascading over me. Wasn't I supposed to be the unwavering pillar of strength? Yet here I was, coming face to face with my own vulnerabilities. "Maybe being strong doesn't mean having all the answers, Lily," I responded softly, feeling the weight of our collective sorrow settle between us. Before I could elaborate further, the atmosphere shifted. A brief moment of silence lingered, charged with unspoken fears and hopes. I felt the walls of my heart begin to crumble, exposing all the insecurities I had buried. Yet the depth of her gaze never wavered. "Do you really believe that God cares about us?" she asked, testing the fragile bond we were building. My heart raced. What if I stammered again? What if my answer wasn't enough? In that breath before I responded, a myriad of complex emotions churned inside me. Fear, sadness, and a flicker of something else. Hope. Would I dare to reveal my own faith and doubt? Or would I leave us both standing on precipices, wondering where to jump next? I looked down at Lily, her small frame trembling, not from fear but from the weight of her emotions pressing against her heart. "Why can't I find Daddy?" she whispered, her voice barely audible, yet cutting through the bustling noise of the cafe like a knife. In that moment, her eyes searched mine, begging for answers that I only half understood myself. I drew a breath, the gravity of this encounter pressing down on my shoulders. "Lily, sometimes," I started, feeling the words flutter in my throat. "Sometimes death is like a shadow. It lingers even when we wish for it to disappear." My own childhood memories rushed forward, and with the clarity of hindsight, I could finally see the parallels between our struggles. She looked up, her face a canvas of confusion and hurt. "But how can I talk to him? How do you talk to someone who's gone?" Beneath my Hollywood bravado, I felt a shift within myself, grappling with the reality that despite my successes, I had moments too, where I felt lost. "You have to remember him, Lily. Hold on to those memories. It's like you're carrying him in your heart." Her tears flowed freely now, tracing lines of sorrow down her cheeks, and I couldn't help but mirror her vulnerability. "You know, I had a moment in my life, not too long ago, where everything felt overwhelming. I was uncertain about my faith, my purpose. Just like you. It was as if I was facing my own Goliath." A flicker of understanding sparked in her eyes as she listened. In that shared silence, I realized we stood at a turning point. This dialogue, tinged with raw honesty, was a bridge. The connection surged through both of us, stirring something profound. It wasn't about answers, but rather the courage to embrace our fears. It's okay to doubt, to feel lost, I told her softly. It's what makes us human. And as she nodded, a hint of resolve in her expression, I sensed a shift within myself, an awakening of compassion that reached deeper than I ever anticipated. As I sat there watching Lily walk away, a sense of peace enveloped me. Our conversation had unraveled something profound. I had shared the darkest parts of my own heart, and in doing so, had illuminated a path for both of us. I realized that doubt can coexist with faith. It was accepting that made the difference. Lily had left with tears in her eyes, but they weren't just tears of sadness. They were tears of release. She carried with her a new understanding, that love endures beyond loss, and questions, though daunting, are part of seeking truth. For myself, this encounter was transformative. I learned that vulnerability does not diminish strength. Instead, it connects us on deeper levels. As I reflected, I understood that the legends we create in our lives must include our truths and the bonds we forge. We are all seeking to understand, to empathize, and to grow, especially in moments we least expect.